Okay, after my first post, I know what you're probably doing. I'm sure that some of you have one hand on your hip and the other pointed at your screen, saying something along the lines of, "You have a lot of explaining to do, missy." Yeah, you bet your sweet ass I do. Too far? Not sorry. I'll go ahead and address some of the more pertinent questions just to get them out of the way. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Mitsuru after Veria scurried off. Stephen thinks that he was taken to hell, which would be my guess, but we can't say with 100% certainty that that's the case. I still haven't figured out the connection between Ivan and Veria. Stephen won't tell me, and I'm definitely not asking Ivan about it. I, thank fuck, still have absolutely no clue who Nona is. I think that about covers the main issues. What? You're saying that it's all clear as mud? So you're telling me that discovering absolutely zilch since my last post hasn't helped better your understanding of my situation in the slightest? Yeah, I thought so. I guess that means I should start from the top, huh? It was my first day on the job. If you'll recall, Ivan had handed me an apron and put me to work right from the jump. I didn't even have time to text my mum and tell her that I'd been hired. Needless to say, I was a bit flustered. And that's how you work the register. Makes sense. Hello? Earth to colour, Stephen said, waving a hand in front of my face. Oh shit, sorry. Zoned out for a sec. Yeah, I think I can handle it. Just as Stephen was preparing to run me through the basics about lattes, a dishevelled woman shuffled through the door. She was wearing a tattered, blood-stained wedding dress, and mascara was running down her cheeks in tiny black rivulets. I nearly screamed. Stephen, I said, failing to subdue the quiver in my voice. Thanks for grabbing my attention. He turned to the woman, who was waiting idly at the counter. Welcome to Aftermath. What can I get for you today? I need a venti shaken brown sugar oat milk espresso with vanilla, sweet cream, cold foam, and a double pump of caramel, please. Despite the woman's rugged appearance, she exuded an air of confidence. I didn't like it. She was almost abrasive in her mannerisms. Coming right up. You want to punch that into the system, Calla? I sheepishly stared at my feet. Can you do it? I'm not comfortable with the cash register just yet. Yeah, no problem, Stephen grinned, ringing the woman up. That'll be $8.07. She handed him a 10, scowling at me all the while. I didn't know what her problem was, but she was seriously starting to creep me out. Here's your change. We'll have that right out for you. Thank you. And a little piece of advice. If another position opens up, don't hire one of the living. They tend to get in the way. She snickered as she marched to a chair a couple tables down from Frank. Stephen began preparing her order, shrugging her off. Don't worry about her. Some of the dead can be a bit hostile towards you living folks. They're just jealous, that's all. I guess that makes sense, I muttered. Though Stephen's words offered me a small sliver of comfort, I could still feel the woman's icy stare boring into my bark. Stephen finished her order, and she shot me one last glare before stomping out of the shop. Rude, I said, as the door slammed shut behind her. So, I have a couple of questions. You know, about dead people, I murmured, timidly locking eyes with Stephen. He pursed his lips, as if he'd been expecting me to say that. Shoot. Why do all the dead walk the earth? Like, is there no afterlife? I've always kind of wondered that, but I've never built up the courage to ask anyone. Stephen sighed. I began to regret asking. Are you sure you're ready for the answer to that? I nodded. Yeah, I'm sure. So, heaven and hell are real, but this plane of existence is somewhere in the middle. Have you ever heard of purgatory? No. What's that? Stephen sucked in a breath and exhaled slowly. Basically, purgatory is where you go when you've done something bad, but not so bad that it lands you in hell. Pretty much. It's a waiting room until you get called up to paradise. The worse you act in life, the longer your sentence is. The only problem is, no one knows how long theirs will last. Okay, That actually makes a lot of sense. But why are you here? You don't seem like a shitty person. Stephen averted his gaze. A pang of guilt struck my chest like a lightning bolt. His aura seemed to darken after I said that, and it frightened me. I'm not ready to talk about it. Maybe one day I'll tell you. But you don't know me, Calla. I'm not the person that you think I am. A tear began to roll down his cheek, but he quickly swiped it away. Now that we have all that out of the way, let's go. Stephen was cut off by the sound of the door swinging open. A man wearing a bright orange jumpsuit burst into the shop. He was bald, with dried blood caked over his left ear. The crazed look in his eyes told me everything that I needed to know. Is there any way that I can sit this one out? Like, in the back? I whispered, as the man lurched towards the register. His jerky, uneven steps sent a shiver rippling up my spine. No problem. I'll take this one. I turned towards Ivan's office and began speed walking up to it. My heart thumped against my chest like a jackhammer. I heard what sounded like bare feet scampering across the tile behind me. And then, the man appeared directly in front of me, blocking me from reaching my destination. I was shitting bricks. Hi sir. How can I help you? I sounded so weak, so brittle, like I crumbled to pieces at the slightest touch. He gave me the once-over, his deranged pupils dancing over my body like ballerinas. I was absolutely disgusted. I felt violated. How can you help me? The man began cackling, his boisterous laughs reverberating off the walls like a pinball machine. You can't help me, darling. I'm far beyond saving. His lips curled into a nasty snarl, exposing an assortment of brown, rotten teeth. But there's one thing you can do for me. He took a step closer, reaching out a gnarled hand. 3 things happened in unison at that moment. The first was Stephen graciously pulling me out of the lunatic's reach. I couldn't have been more thankful for that. The second was Ivan exploding out of his office in a blind rage. The door slammed against the wall so hard that it left a hole in the plaster. Apparently, he'd heard the whole thing, and he wasn't just going to sit there and listen as that freak did who knows what to me. The third, the one that still gives me shivers, was Nona, standing from his chair. That was my first of many encounters with him. When he's in a particularly bad mood, Nona's presence is downright sinister. He exudes an air of malevolence that I can't even begin to describe. It consumes you straight down to the bone. And right then, I was grateful for it. For a second, we all stood there, paralysed. Then, the man glanced at Nona. His arms were motionless at his sides, and even though I couldn't see behind that brown fedora, I knew he was staring daggers into my would-be assailant. The man began to sweat profusely, some semblance of sanity returning to his manic gaze as he slowly backed away. And then Ivan sprang into action. He caught the man by the scruff of the neck before he had a chance to slink out of the door. I could see fire in Ivan's eyes, and it looked like it was taking all of his restraint not to crush the arsehole's windpipe. All the colour drained from the man's face as Ivan lifted him by the throat with one hand. Piece of shit! Touch her and I send you straight to hell! You would like this? The man fervently shook his head. Well, as much as he could in Ivan's death grip, and he mouthed a sad no. I grinned as a pool of liquid began to blossom in his private area. Good. Ivan brutally slammed the trembling man's face into the counter. He winced at the impact. You will apologise to Calla, yes? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. Ivan paused for a moment, as if he was determining whether or not the apology was sufficient. Eventually, he nodded to himself and began to drag the psychopath to the door. I noticed a smirk etched onto Stephen's face, and out of my periphery, I saw Nona slowly return to his seat. Ivan shoved the door open and violently tossed the man to the pavement. He scampered off as Ivan yelled obscenities at him. Though I'm sure a lot of you would like to hear the string of curses that flew from his lips, I don't think I can repeat it without getting banned. Yeah, it was that bad. Once he'd purged the rage from his system, Ivan trudged back over to me and Stephen. He anxiously rubbed the back of his neck,
Color, I wish you did not have to see this. If you would like to quit, I will understand.
I giggled. The shocked expression on Ivan's face only made me laugh harder. Ivan, it's okay. It's clear that I have plenty of protection in case some creep like that comes in again. I'm going to stay. I think I'm going to like it here.